Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Your Property Show. Thank you for joining myself, Hasina Mumtaz, and Kambai, who's answering all your questions today about property investment. Now, today we're focusing on right to buy, but as I've said earlier in the show, please do call in with all your questions, anything around property, finance, accountancy issues. Kambai is well versed in all of those
property
fields.
Tax.
Property tax, he's more than happy to answer your question. And as I said earlier, this is free advice that you would normally have to pay for. So don't hesitate. Do pick up the phone and call us. So going back to our earlier discussion, we were talking about right to buy. What happens if you decide, I think you have to keep the property for about 5 years.
Correct, yes.
What happens if you want to sell it before then?
Well, if you sell it within the first year, the council has right to ask for all the discount back.
The full amount.
Full amount, and then it's 20% less each year. So, ideally you want to keep it for 5 years. If not, if there's some kind of emergency or whatever, then yes, you lose some of that discount. You have to return it back to the council, yeah.
So would that have a knock-on effect on the mortgage amount?
Possibly. Well, the mortgage amount, bank always has an equity built in the property anyway because of the discount. The bank is covered, so
Okay.
where the council has some discounts back. But very rarely people sell within 5 years. It doesn't make sense for you to buy and then sell it within 5 years. Most people tend to keep it and rent it after and then move on to a bigger and nicer property. Move up the ladder.
I was going to ask about that. Can you rent it out, and how soon after you've got the...
Of course, yeah. I mean, usually if it's a leasehold, you do have to obtain consent from the freeholder, which is usually the local authority, because you
I think
become...
they charge a very small fee.
Small
don't
fee,
they?
usually £50, £70
Something like that,
to
yeah.
consent to it, just to
Yeah.
deal with the admin work. So it's very easy to rent a right to buy, and you could you also have to get consent from the lender. Say, look, my family's circumstances has changed, could you please, and or get another residential mortgage if you want to be. You become a let to buy person. And hundreds of people have done this thousands of people have done this in our community, where they've moved on to nicer properties, bigger houses, by simply renting their right to buys.
Okay, good point to finish on that point, because we've got a caller now. So, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Your Property Show. What's your question?
Whether I'll be able to switch my existing mortgage to the new mortgage, I mean the new property.
Can
And
sorry, yeah, carry on.
And the second one is how much property value I need to pay the taxes if I want to sell it my property.
Yes. Okay.
So how much is, the government rate is, I don't know, last time I heard it is 350,000, or I don't know if this year, how much it's going to be like.
Okay. So the first question, yes, you can take, most lenders do let you port the mortgage. It's called port. So you take the mortgage with you to the new property as long as the prices are similar or higher. So that's absolutely fine. It's normal to do that. You do have to go through some of the checks again with the lender, that you're still earning sufficient income to be able to pay the mortgage, and if you haven't had defaults since then. So there are some checks to be done, but it's very easy to port the mortgage. Now, on the taxation question you have, I assume you're referring to capital gains tax. Now, capital gains tax depends how much you bought the property for and how much you're selling the property for, and then there's also a allowance that you can use, £11,000. After that, you also have expenses that you can deduct. Legal fees, estate agent fees, any major renovations you've done, capital expenditure. And from there, you apply the appropriate tax rate. The starting rate for capital gains is 18%. So, and it goes up depending on what rate taxpayer you are. But I think on that occasion, it might be better to get some advice from an accountant to give you more detailed calculation of how much your tax liability will be. And on the first question, you can just approach your lender and they'll let you inform you how to process of changing or taking your mortgage with you to the new property. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Okay, great question. Thank you for calling in. And reminder to our other viewers that we are here to answer all your questions. If you don't want to call through, you can also email us, and both the phone number and the email address are up on your screen. So please do call through or email us. So getting back to right to buy again, if you want to sell, do you then put the property back on the open market, or can you offer the council to buy and put it back into their housing stock?
Yes, it's always, these days now, you always have to offer it to the council, first right of refusal, and if they decide not to buy, then you can put it on the open market. But if the council decide to acquire purchase the right to the property back from you, they'll obviously give you the market price, and whatever, you can come to an agreement, yeah.
Okay, great. For a while, if we can just quickly move on to a couple of other things, and obviously if anyone has any questions about right to buy, more than welcome to come through, and we'll come back to that. There have been some recent changes, I think, in the property market. Maybe you'd want to tell our viewers about those changes and how it affects them.
The 3% is the biggest one, where investors, so if you have more than one property.
Is this on stamp duty?
Stamp duty.
Okay.
So 3% on stamp duty on 300,000, you're looking at extra £9,000. So what the impact it's had is there's less investors now. So there's more opportunity for first-time buyers to come on the market, and less competition from the investors, I guess, from the buy-to-let investors. So that's...
So first-time buyers are exempt from
Exempt,
this.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. They pay the normal stamp duty. So what's happening in the market is it's a little bit quieter, simply because the investors have calmed down a bit. And
Can I ask you to hold that thought for a moment, because we've got another caller. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
I have another question. Can I sell the property once I purchased my right to buy? Can you give me the answer, please?
Can you sell your property? Of course, yeah, we cover that. Now, you can sell your right to buy once you acquire it, but it's better if you hold on to it for 5 years. Otherwise, you have to return some of your discounts back to the local authority. So if you sell it after 1 year, you have to return 80% of the discount back. After 3 years is 60%. So it's so if you keep it for 5 years, you don't have to return any discount, but you do have the right to sell, of course, yeah. It's not... you have a legal right to sell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Another great call. So reminder to everybody else, please do call in. We're not scary. So do call in with your questions on right to buy and anything else about property development and investment. You kind of alluded to
the market is the government is trying its best efforts to calm the market down, because nobody wants a crash. I mean, it's the way it's been going rapidly increases in around London again, southeast. So this is one of the points for it to favour the first-time buyers, if you like. So the 3% stamp, it seems to be working so far for first 6-7 weeks. Investors have backed off a little bit. So yeah, this is where we are at the moment. I don't know if it's down to the European referendum or the 3% stamp duty, but we'll see how things pan out. Yeah.
Is the market being a little bit cautious, waiting to see what happens?
Yes, possibly. So it has, it's a little bit quieter, and then we can see some of the first-time buyers are having a bit more opportunity where there was too much intense competition from investors. So this is what the government wanted. So it's possibly a good thing. That's what's happening.
Okay, and you did mention the EU referendum, and not to get too much into politics, but at a very basic level, will that affect? What do you think? What kind of, if we leave, what sort of impact is that likely to have?
Well, certainly there will be massive impact on the tenant demand. I mean, there's most of London, you have a lot of people coming into work, whether it's 1 year or 5 years short term. EU, yes. So, and they're all renters, so obviously the tenant demand will be reduced, and that could have an impact on the market. Certainly,
that lead to a glut of properties.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, landlords rely on tenants, for the property to be occupied for them to pay the mortgages. So you could have a lot of properties on the market simply because people are not able to find tenants quickly. So that will have an impact. It's whether it will have a massive impact on the prices, we don't know. But the Chancellor is saying yes, your prices, house prices will drop significantly. I believe he came back with a figure of 18%. There's possibly interest rates could go up, so your mortgage will be more expensive. There's also, I know for sure that the tenant demand will do. If all these people are not allowed to come, then obviously there'll be a lot more vacant properties. And there's...
We're about to head into a break, but just before we do, we've got another caller. So can we take your question, please? Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Your Property Show.
Line's cut off.
Ah, okay. Unfortunately, we've lost that caller. So you were saying about the EU. I mean, is it just only likely to be a short-term kind of impact until the market stabilises?
Initially, they say it could be a shock, and then I'm sure it will stabilise and we'll sort of settle in or live with it without the thing. But I haven't read into it in detail, but the Chancellor is saying there will be a significant drop in house prices. Simply because
he wants us to stay
yes, yes. So, you know, that's what I'm reading on. Yeah.
But, and if it does happen, I mean, we're about to go into a break shortly, but very briefly, if it, and again, not getting too political, but if it does happen, would you advise people to sort of grit their teeth and bear with it, and the property prices will go up? And in the long term, those impacts will be negligible.
Property prices long term always goes up.
I think our caller's back. I think our caller's back. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, walaikum salam.
Welcome to the studio. What's your question?
আমি যেজন একটু জানতাম স্যার আমি আসলে ফার্স্ট টাইম বায়ার তো ফার্স্ট টাইম বায়ার হিসেবে আমি সেলফ এমপ্লয়েড তো আমি জানতাম স্যার যে what are the steps I need to take to apply say all the way to mortgage and everything because I'm very new in the team buying a property so self employed হইলে তারা কিটা documents চাইতে পারে in the bank to apply for a mortgage in to be more specific like a Islamic mortgage and yeah, these sort of documents really, when do I need to go to a solicitor, at what stage, what are the functions of the solicitor, and all these sort of things, you see, I need to, if you could initially explain me. Thank you.
That's a great question. And what I'll say to our caller is please stay tuned because we're going to go into a break now. But Kambai is going to answer your question when we come back after the break. So do stay tuned because you will get an answer to your question. And anybody else who wants to call in, please do so. We're here to take your calls. See you after the break. Thank you.